And I see our planner, and looks like we have some folks there in the council chambers as well. Are anyone associated with the project there in the room that we're aware of? Okay, excellent. Well, I think then with that, we can go ahead and get started. Let me know when the recording has begun.
We've started, thank you.
Sorry?
We have started.
Oh, the recording has started. Okay, get my gavel up, make it official. And good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and call this session of the City of Oak Harbor Hearing Examiner to order. For the record, today is August 2nd, 2022 at 2 p.m. We have one item on the agenda this afternoon. This is number 2204-0027, a request for approval of a preliminary plat, subdivision waiver, and landscape plan to subdivide an approximately 6.6 acre property into 28 single-family residential lots with associated appurtenances and improvements at 1851 Northwest Crosby Avenue. My name is Andrew Reeves. I'm a hearing examiner with Sound Law Center, who the city has selected to hold certain land use application hearings like this one. And today will be my role to collect evidence in the form of exhibits and testimony to determine whether this proposal is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, zoning ordinances, critical areas ordinances, and the specific requirements for approval of a preliminary plat, subdivision waiver, and landscape plan under the requirements of the municipal code. And because it does involve the subdivision of land, ensure it complies with our state subdivision act, which is located in chapter 5817 of the revised code of Washington. To that end, I received several exhibits in advance of the hearing that I had an opportunity to review. And these include a staff report prepared by city staff, the application materials themselves, including various memorandums and information on specific aspects of the proposal, technical information on the environmental review that occurred under our state's Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA, including the determination of non-significance, or DNS, that was issued on July 15th. Information on the notice that was provided in relation to the application, as well as today's hearing. And then I believe one public comment that was received in advance of the hearing that I saw that expressed some concerns about stormwater. So I'm going to go ahead and put those exhibits into the record. Should anyone have additional exhibits they would like admitted into the record, let me know when it's your opportunity to testify, and I'll address admitting additional exhibits at that time. Speaking of testimony, all testimony today will be under oath or affirmation. That's because were my decision to be appealed under our state's Land Use Petition Act, or LUPA, the recording of today's hearing, as well as the admitted exhibits and my decision, would serve as the foundation for any such appeal. Finally, the order that we typically follow, and I believe we're going to follow today, is first I'll swear in city staff, who will give an overview of the proposal and the review process that led us to today's hearing. After that, we will turn to the applicant representative or applicant team to present any additional information they feel that myself or members of the public should be aware of in advance of my making a decision on the proposal. And then we will check and see if there are members of the public interested in testifying, either through use of remote technology or they're in the hearing room. And if so, they will have that opportunity. And then after that, if appropriate, we'll turn it back to the applicant team and city staff to respond to any such testimony. So that's the order we're going to follow. I thank everyone for being here. And with that, I will go ahead and get planning staff sworn in. So Mr. Lindenberg, thank you for being here. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
Thank you. And could you just clearly state and spell your name for the recording and explain your role here at the city?
Sure. Ray Lindenberg, Lindenburg. I'm the senior planner for the city of Oak Harbor and the project manager on this particular project.
Great, thank you. And did my assessment of the exhibits you were hoping I would review in advance of the hearing make sense and line up with what was intended?
It did, yes.
Excellent. Okay, well with that, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm going to do a brief presentation here on the overview of the project. There's not a lot additional to share than what you had, but I will show a couple of slides here on the screen that I'll share. What we have is our vicinity map that shows the location of the project on Northwest Crosby Avenue in the kind of extreme northwestern corner of the city. The project is located on a long, narrow piece oriented north-south that is in between an existing residential subdivision to the west and a kind of partially developed project to the east that includes a number of older duplexes as well as some empty land future development area. To the south are some single-family homes that are within the county, and then to the north are some very low-density homes that are located in Island County as well. The general the aspect of the property is kind of a north to south, or excuse me, a south to north downhill slope generally. The project has been designed to accommodate that essentially. What they've done is orient the street north to south to allow for their excuse me, I'm trying to get my map up here real quick. To allow for the drainage and those sorts of facilities to operate properly in a downhill fashion. So what they have is a north-south street proposed that goes, and this is oriented differently than the map. North is this way, and this is Northwest Crosby Avenue. The north-south street that contains most of the lot frontages, and then an extension of the existing Northwest Uppsala Street that also stubs into that other property to the west to allow for future expansion. That is partially to satisfy some of our code requirements with regards to connections to future growth areas and existing subdivisions, so we don't have stub streets kind of dead ending everywhere. It also allows for traffic to disperse more through neighborhood areas rather than immediately going out to arterial streets and concentrating in one location. That being said, we have 28 potential new homes here. We don't sense that there's going to be any significant traffic impact because of these homes. The nearby streets of Crosby and Heller Avenue are in good shape as far as traffic counts and don't anticipate any problems adding approximately 28 new evening trips there. We will, of course, review transportation concurrency and go through the fee schedule on that and make sure that all of that is taken care of as we do as staff later on in this process. What we're asking you to approve today is the preliminary plat. This is not a PRD, so there are not additional design criteria or anything. However, there is a slight variation in the way the street is laid out, and that was noted in the staff report. Essentially, what they've done is to have the sidewalk immediately adjacent to the curb on one side of the street, and then have a 10-foot wide park strip or landscape strip on the other side of the street, rather than doing a 5-foot landscape strip on both sides. This is something that the applicant and staff kind of went through and agreed upon to allow for street parking and also to allow for ease of maintenance. 5-foot park strips are difficult to water and to keep maintained, so it's a little bit better to get those plantings and everything in a little bit larger area. It's a more efficient way of doing things. We do still have street trees on both sides of the streets as required by our code, and so that is taken care of in the landscape plan, which is part of the approval. So today you're approving the subdivision plat, a variation from the street design, and then also the landscape plan. The SEPA DNS, as you noted, was issued on the 15th. We did not get any comments back from that, so we consider that matter concluded, I believe, at this point. And so we don't need any decision based on the SEPA record or anything along those lines. So that is essentially my presentation there. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Sure. Just to go backward, I guess, to clarify on SEPA, I believe there was a comment from Department of Ecology. Is that right?
That is correct. And we included that as a condition of approval on there. Essentially, what happened is apparently there is a site nearby, and they should watch out for contamination. So we included that on there. Didn't feel like it rose to the occasion of making it into an MDNS, so we continued forward with the DNS issuance.
And then in terms of SEPA, I believe it was issued July 15th, and Exhibit 3, the DNS says that the appeal period concluded July 29th, 2022. Was the comment period on SEPA concurrent with the appeal period, or did the comment period on SEPA occur previously using the optional notice process when the notice of application was provided?
When that came in as notice of application, we also notified that there was a SEPA checklist and comments were accepted at that time as well. And we did submit that to the state portal, the online portal. Then that system works really well. They let us know that they received it. We did not get any comments at that time. Then when we issued the DNS, we also sent that one to the portal and then did not get any comments on that either.
Got it. Okay. So essentially, I think it's WAC 197.11.355, but the optional DNS process whereby the public and others, everyone at large is notified with the application that the expectation is that a DNS is likely to be issued and comments can be provided both on the application and SEPA at that time. There's no further comment period. And so once the DNS issues, then the appeal period begins. And in this instance, the appeal period concluded on the 29th. Is that
correct?
Right? Okay. Yep. Just making sure that I understood that, which in fact, I do have the Exhibit 4 is the public notice certification, which is great. That said, if we could be provided just a copy of the actual one document, just of the notice, what it says, just so I have that in the record, it would be great to add that to Exhibit 4. Okay, covered that. And then I think in your testimony, you referenced 28 new homes, but am I correct in my understanding that in fact it's 27 new homes on 28 lots? Because I think it's lots.
Yes.
Okay, proposed lot.
That is correct. I misspoke there, and thanks for catching that. It is 28 lots. There is one existing home that'll be on lot number 18, I believe. And so that makes a total of 27. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess in relation to that, my question there was, will that existing residence be connected to the municipal sewer? And if so, would it be appropriate to have a condition of some kind related to decommissioning any existing septic system?
My understanding is that, yes, it will be connected to the sewer. The decommissioning is usually, I believe, handled through the county health department. But if you want to add that in there, we can certainly do that. It would be appropriate. I don't think that would be an issue at all, to just make sure that it's handled in the appropriate manner. Sure,
and I guess I can word it in such a way that something to the effect of that existing home would be, like all the other proposed homes, connected to the municipal sewer, and the applicant shall coordinate with city staff to ensure that any additional steps are required in terms of the septic system. So yeah. Great, that makes sense. And if I recall, the well was already addressed to the extent that the well is being capped, or however you want to phrase that, and this existing home will also receive municipal water, is yes. My understanding as well. Okay, excellent. And then you talked about the connection to Uppsala Street and the neighboring development, and so that was already sort of planned in advance, so that connection will be sort of seamless, as it were, at this point.
Yes, there is a slight change in the design of the park strips and the sidewalks and the way everything works out and the pavement width. And with, working with the applicant and our engineering staff, they essentially came up with a design that makes the most sense there to connect the two, a narrowing park strip that, blends in fairly seamlessly as well as it can in that situation. They are a little bit different, but that's typical. We deal with that a lot. Not a huge deal. So essentially what we're looking for there is to make sure that pedestrians and or cars don't, just end.
Right.
But there is a connection there, and that's how we wanted it. So it's good.
Sure. Well, and I guess when you have that slight difference, however it works out, that almost de facto serves as a traffic calming because it kind of identifies that this is a different neighborhood, even if they're connected. So I think
Yes.
that makes sense. Okay. In terms of, I believe there was the one public comment that I reviewed in advance had some concerns about stormwater, I believe, in relation to the north. My first question is, I think the SEPA checklist referenced a geotechnical report and a preliminary stormwater report. I don't believe I received copies of those in Exhibit 2, the application materials. But
You probably didn't. I think we were trying to limit the deluge of information that we give you. We can certainly provide that to you. I'm waiting for my Google Earth to come up, and I will share that screen. What we have to the north there, this is the subject property right here. There is a fairly significant wetland complex to the north. And I know that it has been impacting some of the neighboring property owners with regard to, apparently it's been increasing in size over the previous decades. And that has been as a result of, increased development and impervious surfaces and things like that. I think that this project being constructed now instead of 20 years ago is actually an advantage for these folks, because I think we do a much better job of making sure that we don't have water just kind of unregulated flowing into places that it doesn't belong. We are going to obviously review this strenuously to make sure that it doesn't cause any undue impact downstream. So I believe that has been taken care of, and our engineering staff will be on top of it when they do the civil reviews and everything.
sure. And just to, I think it would be helpful to get those technical reports included. I can add them ultimately to, we can just make an additional exhibit for those. Exhibit 6 will be additional technical reports. But so I understand, at least in concept, my read was that stormwater on site, as opposed to being, say, infiltrated on site, it ultimately is going to be channeled to that tract near the entrance, collected, treated, and then will be sent to the municipal stormwater system within Crosby. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Sorry, just checking my notes here.
No worries.
I think that ultimately then covers the specific questions that I had for city staff. So thank you. And also just to verify, I think you testified to it, but ultimately I am producing a decision on the plat, but also addressing the specific criteria related to the road deviation, as it were, and the landscape plan.
That is correct. Yeah, those are the three main items there. I'm just to clarify here, I've got a checklist of things to get to you. You wanted the stormwater report and the geotech report.
Right, and then a copy of whatever the actual language of the notice for the application and for the hearing.
Okay.
So we don't want 100 mailing labels or anything like that, but it is helpful to sort of see what the actual notice said. So
Okay, we will get that off to you today. Thank you.
great, excellent. Okay, I think then that was it. So at this point, we will turn to our applicant representative, And I believe that is someone in the room, so you could, is there a specific mic set up there?
All right, can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you for being here. I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
And could you clearly state and spell your name for the recording?
Jesse Jarrell, Jesse Jarrell, and I am the project manager and civil engineer with LDC Incorporated.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jarrell. Or Jarrell. Sorry, did I say that wrong?
Jarrell, yeah, that's correct.
Jarrell. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jarrell. So this would be your opportunity to present any additional information you feel that myself or members of the public should be aware of, and also if there was any clarifying thoughts and any discussion on the recommended conditions of approval that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, thank you. So as Mr. Lindbergh stated, described the project pretty well in detail. I don't believe we have anything to add to that. We've read through the staff's recommendations of approval. We don't find anything that seems off or in question. So with that, we will leave it up to you guys for questions.
Sure. In terms of my conversation with Mr. Lindbergh with the existing home and the septic that is, I assume, there, did that all make sense? Just something to ensure, you probably already thought of this, but it's always good to capture these things in a decision. But did that make sense?
Yes, it did. And I believe the drain field currently exists on one of the lots anyway, so it's going to have to be removed and the house will need to be connected. So, yes.
And then the approach to stormwater, also, didn't mischaracterize what the at least the preliminary plan is. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. The idea is to pipe the developed runoff from the site through a water quality treatment system, and then also through a large detention system located in the northeasterly corner of the site, which will regulate the developed flows to match a historic forested site prior to releasing into the drainage system on Crosby.
Okay. And then let's see. Just making sure. And the total is 28, right? There's
correct.
So 27 new and keep one, but 28 lots.
Yes, correct.
Total. Okay, just want to make sure. There we go. I know there were draft CC&Rs included. Was there anything of note or specific you were hoping I would point out or look at in terms of those draft CC&Rs?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And I'll be honest, I didn't thoroughly review them, but am I correct in assuming that there's provisions related to required maintenance of common elements or spaces, specifically the stormwater vault and system, as it were?
I believe there was, yes. I'd have to look through it again, but yeah, that's kind of normal verbiage.
I assumed as much. Okay, excellent. I then don't believe I have any additional questions specific for the applicant. Did you have other members of your team you were hoping to have testified today?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Thank you. Well, then with that, at this point, we will see if there are any members of the public interested in testifying.
Thank you.
As far as I'm able to tell, it does not appear we have any remote. Do we have any members there in the chambers? Members of the public?
We do not. We do? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
see
We do
someone
have
raise a
one. I
hand.
apologize. He was hiding behind. Go ahead.
Thank you for being here. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I swear to affirm and tell the truth, the testimony given here today.
Great. Could you state and spell your name for me?
Monte Kittleson, M-O-N-T-E, K-I-T-T-E-L-S-O-N.
Sorry, was it ELSON?
ELSON.
Okay, Monty Kittleson. Thank you for being here. Go ahead.
I just want to add that I'm at 2590 Olympic Drive, so in the plat, it looks like I have 2 houses to my backyard now, per the plan. Drainage easement, that was one of my questions. Is there one on the property?
Okay, so, sorry, and I'll try to get answers. I'll write down your.
It don't have to be answered right now, but there's a lowland down there and stormwater, getting back to that subject. I want to reiterate
Sure,
that.
So hoping for additional information about stormwater and whether there's a drainage easement?
Yes, that feeds into a slough right down below, going by the Hillcrest development.
And Mr.
Surgeon
Kittleson,
Park,
for my
or whatever they
sake,
call
can
it.
you, oh,
Search.
can you kind of orient, sorry, I don't know if I'm getting feedback from me.
Okay.
Could you orient me the direction so
This would be eastward.
your property would be to the east?
Mine's to the south, but the water drainage concern is going east.
Okay, so your property to the south and drainage concern is to the east.
The southeast corner is very wet on that property, I would suspect, in the winter months.
Okay,
And I
thank
just
you.
want to
for-
have that taken into consideration. So,
Sure, did
Yeah.
you have other thoughts or comments you wanted to share?
no, just other than the stormwater runoff,
Okay,
and that's it. That's
Great.
all I have.
great, thank you for your comments. Let me see if a member of the applicant team, I know we have some engineers, maybe they can speak to this. Someone on the applicant team.
Okay.
And if you'd like to sit down, Mr. Kittleson, we'll get this on the record, but I'm sure these guys will give you information to be in contact as well. So is this Mr. Jarrell again?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So I believe what Mr. Kittleson is referring to is southeast of the site, there are some wetland areas, and those were delineated years ago with the development of the adjacent development to the southeast. We've estimated that the buffer from the closest wetland just cuts across the southeast corner of the site. Though that is the case, the majority of the site slopes northerly. So basically, the southerly boundary of the site is roughly a break line between that drainage basin and everything that flows to the north. So anything that gets disturbed for the development is planned to connect into the Plat's new drainage system and head northerly towards the new detention system. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so again, the plan is the stormwater, say the roof drains from, lot 13, 14, et cetera. The plan is the water will be collected and sent actually to the north, to that detention pond, and should
Correct.
not have detrimental impacts on the properties to the south and southeast. Is
That is correct,
accurate?
yes.
Assessment? Okay. And then there was a question, I think, about a drainage easement. Do you happen to have any information on if there is? Oh, Ray Lindenberg apparently has an answer there, unless you have any final comments before I go to Mr. Lindenberg.
I don't believe so. I mean, there's there may be potentially some minor easements on the lots to convey on lot drainage to the main system in the streets, but outside of that, there's no planned regional drainage system for anything out there.
Okay. Great, thank you. So with that, I'll go back to Mr. Lindenberg on behalf of city staff.
Yeah, I was trying to I made the mistake of closing Google Earth, and now it's taking forever to reopen. But this is the southeast corner of the project right here. Mr. Kittleson, I believe, lives in one of these homes along the south side here. And then Island Place, Division 2, is a more recent subdivision that was done, and there is a wetland area here that they preserved. There's a 50-foot wetland buffer that goes around that wetland that barely clips the very, very corner of Lot 13 there. And honestly, we didn't address it in the staff report because it is such a tiny little space that there's not going to be any development in there that's going to affect the wetland buffer. Drainage obviously will be addressed, like Mr. Terrell said. So I think that I believe that we have that handled, you know, through the engineering of the entire project. And I believe that the 50-foot buffer will not be violated in any way that you know, causes concern or an issue there. So I believe that we are covered from that standpoint.
Sure, and if I recall, even if it wasn't explicitly discussed in the staff report, I think the memorandum that you prepared for in relation to the SEPA determination did reference the fact there was an offsite wetland with a buffer that, you know, essentially came up to the edge, but would not be impacted by development. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to make sure, as far as I can tell, there are no members of the public that have joined us virtually, I think. Ring is not the system I'm most familiar with. Sarah Heller, can you just verify for me that there's not a
That's correct.
waiting?
There's no other
Okay.
members of the public in the meeting today.
Great, thank you. And it does not appear anyone else has come into the hearing room there. So with that, I believe I now have the information I need to ultimately make a decision on the proposal. And that decision will actually involve 3 decisions to the extent that it will discuss the preliminary plat, the road variation, and the landscape plan. And there's just a few additional pieces of information that city staff is going to send me, but we don't need to keep the record open additional days or anything. So my intent is to take all the information that's been provided as exhibits and all the testimony I've heard here today, further under consideration here in the next week or so, and issue a decision on this proposal in the next 10 business days. And so if Mr. Kittleson, I don't want to, but Kittleson would like a copy of the decision, I'm sure if he provides his address or preferably even an email to city staff, they'll make sure he receives a copy of the decision when it's issued. So thank you, folks, for taking the time to participate in this process. Thank you for answering my questions. And with that, we'll conclude our hearing. I wish everybody safety and good health.